All right, well, in theory, this is live. I'm guessing there's nobody out there yet because this is the very first time I've gone live on the Bear Family Farms channel. Therefore, nobody is really expecting it. I got to stop hitting my desk. Any of you who've watched my live streams on the JT Bear channel know that that is a huge issue for me. So, this was basically supposed to be just a quick test, and YouTube gave me a few issues, told me I need to confirm with a phone number and all that stuff, and then let me come live anyway. So I'm guessing what happened here is that because I've already done that for the main JT Bear channel, that, well, I don't have to do it again. That's what I'm going for anyway. Hope this works. Our homestead. Well, howdy. Thank you for joining me today. You are our first person to chat, so you get to become moderator. Enjoy your wrench. Use it responsibly. I guess that proves it is working. Marcy, hello. Welcome to the show. You get a wrench too because, you know, you're you. Loyalty pays around here. I've actually kind of got a list that I was thinking about doing if this video worked to go live. Ages ago, like probably 6 months ago. Growing Grass, Homestead and Farms, welcome. Morning indeed. Anyway, ages ago, Brother Trollforge asked me to do 10 things, a video on 10 things that I get out of the whole homesteading concept. And, you know, I tried to break it down. I don't know if most people would consider these benefits of the homesteading situation or not, but I do. So I guess we'll make that today's video topic, my top 10 benefits of homesteading. Number one, and you can verify that if you want. It's terrible printing. I know I should have been a doctor. Number one is I know where my leafy greens and stuff are coming from. Easily my top benefit of the whole homesteading thing. And I got that out of gardening too. But in these days when, you know, lettuce is being recalled, I mean, really, how many times has romaine lettuce been recalled in the last 12 months? It is absolutely ridiculous. And I don't like dealing with it. So, I mean, right now we've switched. Our main source of salads around here is coleslaw. I love coleslaw. I'm a huge fan of the entire Brassica family of plants. So it works for me. But a lot of people not necessarily fans of the cabbage, which I don't know why. It's a beautiful cold weather crop, but it works really well, really well. One moment for tea. Yeah, okay. So I know where my leafy greens come from. That's definitely the number one bonus for me. The number two bonus for me, because of the way that Shocks and I went about this situation, we are able to live rent and mortgage free. Now, to do that, we had to move halfway across Canada, give up everything that we know, and start fresh in an entirely new location. But I think a lot of people who are interested in homesteading will find themselves in a very similar situation. If you're looking to escape a city or whatever, and you want to buy land that's large enough to actually make an impact in your life, odds are pretty good you're going to have to get out of that city. In our case, we were able to purchase the half acre that we're on with this little house for just over 20 grand, which where we live, even in our little town of Strathclair, is unheard of for its low price. There are single wide mobile homes, trailers, ready to move, whatever they call them out here. Basically, it's a mobile home. You're looking at one just down the street sold for $60,000, and it's on about the same size of land. So I think we got a screaming deal on this, and I'd have to say, not having to worry about the rent or the mortgage has really, it's taken a major weight off of the shoulders. I wish everybody that were homesteading were able to do this, but I looked deep into the properties that were for sale in Canada at the time, and maybe if people are interested, I can try and do a video on how I found this property so other people can go through similar steps and also find property within their means. Living within your means obviously is a huge thing in the homesteading community. Living beneath your means is probably the best way to get successful. Learning curve acres sounds like a good idea. Doing the video on how I found the property. I'd be happy to do that. It seems like a lot of people don't understand the process that I went through. So I will definitely, I'll make a video on that in the coming weeks and see what I can find. And who knows, maybe I can help somebody out there get closer to achieving their own homesteading goals and dreams, because it's so much better living in the country and having that, like I said, weight off the shoulders. So let's move on here. The number 3 thing on my top 10 benefits from homesteading is I get to learn something new every day. Now, if you watch the main JT Bear channel, you will probably have figured out by now that that is absolutely what makes me tick. I spent a lot of time in grade 12 intentionally failing courses so that I could take other courses. And by the time I left my high school, not only had I gotten to know my teachers really, really well, I had pretty much taken every academic the school had to offer. I had taken all of the history courses, and I had taken all of the music courses, and I had taken all of the English courses. And I had to get on with life, which sucks a little bit, but we all know how that works. But in this homesteading / farming situation, every day there's something new I need to learn about. There, like with the chickens, I'm still learning constantly, dealing with those girls, but I've got it kind of under control. But next, we're moving into rabbits soon. I'm getting the cage together for that. So hopefully by the spring, we'll have our rabbitry up and running. We are considering getting ducks. So all of that means that there's going to be more knowledge for me to absorb. I get to spend more time on YouTube watching some of my favorite video creators, just teaching me those little things that they've already learned to ease my journey. And, I can turn around and show people what I've learned from that to ease theirs. In many ways, I feel that YouTube is the ultimate community college, because it's not like we're going to a college and we're paying it in the community and all that stuff, but it is the community educating the community. Nobody here is being paid. Well, okay, there are a few people on YouTube that are being paid to represent and present specific points of view and specific ideologies. But for the most part, those of us here on YouTube are sharing things that we have learned, things that we feel are important for other people to know. And it really, I think it adds a certain purity to the education and the learning opportunity, because it's not being polluted as much by corporate or, desires greater than our own, really. So hope this works. 4 degrees Fahrenheit where you are. Yeah, it's minus 20 something Celsius here. So I feel for you, but you're not going to get a lot of pity. Do stay warm though. Canada, what do you do? Manitoba, Canada, it's about as cold as it gets for Canada. Anyway, 44 here, up in the 70s, 74. Oh, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. Our high today is supposed to be -9. Not cool. Not cool. Let's keep moving on through this list though before I get distracted. I have a huge problem getting distracted on these live things. Number 4. I sleep better. I sleep so much better in this town of 700 and some odd people. I can't even describe the change that it's made to my ability to learn every day, my ability to try and maintain a positive mental attitude and things like that. I grew up in Vancouver, British Columbia. Well, I was born in Winnipeg. I moved out there when I was like 5. In my teenage to early adult years, I spent 8 of those years doing security in the downtown core, and I saw things that just made me ready to leave that environment, and that's really just the best way to put it. So when I moved out of there, I moved to Penticton. Again, if you follow the other channel, you're already aware of this anyway, so there's no new information going out there. And I met Shocks, and we spent a decade living there, and it was much, much better, but I still we'll say suffered from some insomnia issues. Punky, hello! Nice to see you this morning, Punky. But once we got out here to, actually, let me give you your ranch here. Once we got out here to Strathclair, and like I say, it's a town of 700 and some odd souls, I sleep so much better at night. I'm not lying there wondering if somebody's going after my Jeep or somebody's breaking into the shop or, like any of that stupid stuff that even in Penticton was somewhat irrelevant. We did have a lot of creepers wandering through our tiny yard, which was really, really frustrating. But out here, I go to sleep, and once I hit sleep, I am out like for the night. And in many ways, I feel like I'm still trying to recover lost sleep from all of those years. But that's just the way it is. I may never get back those years of sleep, but I had kids too, so that's that's how that goes. Let's move on here to number 5. Very similar to the sleeping easier. It's much easier to breathe when you're living out in the country, and I'd have to say that's easily my number 5 in the top 10 benefits of country living, homesteading, whatever that would fall under. There's so much heavy equipment going by in the fields and stuff that you wouldn't really think that it's going to be easier to breathe out here. But when you compare it to the smog of being trapped, like Vancouver is a port city, so all of that gets trapped, and then there's the mountains here, so it gets double trapped. And I was just having a very hard time taking a deep breath, not even to pause and just relax, but just to breathe and stay alive. Out here, the only time that's really an issue is when they're actually actively spraying on the fields. And then I like to lock up the chickens if I can. They're kind of protected right now. There's nothing going on over the winter anyway, obviously. But I bring the dog in. We bring all that stuff in. And it only takes, half a day or so. And then it's pretty much easier to breathe. My husband has been taking off most of his asthma meds. See, like moving to the country, the air is so much better, so much better. When we went back to BC, actually last time for Research's wedding, can't believe he's married now. Ugh. But when we went back, it was in August, so it was forest fire season, and we were going through a lot of bigger communities, and even shocks going from here to there. While she didn't have breathing problems initially, she did develop some over the course of our journey, and it took several months once we got back and a few of those asthma inhaler puffers to get her breathing properly again. And yeah, it's just, to me, that is a huge benefit. It probably should be higher up than number 5 on my list, but that is where it is anyway. Number 6 on my benefits of homesteading, I enjoy animals. I enjoy eating animals. I enjoy raising animals. So at least with the animals that we are raising here, I mean, right now it's chickens. And like I was saying earlier, we're going to be getting into the rabbitry. Hopefully come spring, we'll have that set up and all of those things. And as we move farther and farther down the line, we're going to be getting sheep. I want to get some Highland cattle. I want to get some goats, but goats are way down the line. They'll be at least the 3rd type of ruminant. Sheep absolutely first, cattle absolutely second, Highland cattle absolutely my preference because they're going to do better in the Manitoba environment. And, well, they're like the hippies of the cow world. So I think most people know I appreciate anything with long hair. So, yeah, I enjoy the animals. I enjoy the interaction with animals and an opportunity to care for them and know that they are living in a, I want to say, happy, healthy, productive sort of way. To me, it's a huge benefit. Not only do I know that the meat that we're going to be eating from that is happier, healthier, less stressed, probably going to be more flavorful because of that meat, I know that the life that I'm taking to feed my family, at least it was a good life. When you're hunting for your meat, you can assume that that animal has had a semi-stressed but fairly good life, living in the wild as a deer, as a moose, as a boar, whatever you're hunting that day. But when you're buying your meat at the grocery store, you really don't have any kind of idea what ethics went into its care and its stewardship. And I think when we're consuming meat, we have an obligation to ourselves as spiritual beings, and to the animal as a fellow spiritual being, to care for it, even though we're going to consume it. And I've seen a lot of people on YouTube going through comments who don't understand why give an animal so much love and so much care and so much just kindness if you're going to eat it anyway. And that the answer is because I'm going to eat it. I think Joel Salatin, who I call Mr. Salad Man, I think he put it best, is that our animals have a really good life with one bad day. And if I can provide that for my meat, then I'm going to feel better about the meat that I'm eating. So it's kind of a big circle, because yes, I enjoy animals and I intend to slaughter them, but that is definitely one of the things that I get out of homesteading, is I get to spend more time with the animals, and I enjoy that time that I spend. Number 7 on my top 10 benefits of homesteading is I get the opportunity to care for land, which again seems kind of like a silly thing. But to me, in this day and age, a lot of mankind, humankind, if you prefer, has really lost the desire to take care of our Mother Earth. And that's not good. It's not good for the planet, and it's not good for us as people. A lot of folks will take the time and take the position that if I screw up bad enough, that's okay. Something else exterior from me is going to come in, and it's going to make everything better, and it's going to take all my problems away like magic. And unfortunately, in my experiences, that's not really how things work. And if we want the world to get better, we personally, individually, have to get involved. We have to do our part. And as farmers, homesteaders, whatever you want to call yourself, we have the opportunity, more than most folk, to do something about restoring our landscape and repairing our planet. I've been doing a lot of rabbit hole research lately about grassland restoration and things like that. I've got a list of probably 20 some odd names, because I'm making a who's who of global restoration. And one of the people up there with Joel Salad Man, in my opinion, is Alan Savory. He's doing a lot of really interesting things in regards to, I want to say regreening, but it's not really that. It's like improving the South African, Zimbabwe, I believe, Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, whatever they call it now. It's where he's from. That's where most of his work is centered. But there are savory institutes popping up all over the world, because he is trying to encourage other people to do the same thing, and that is to look around them, plan their homestead, their farm in a holistic way, figure out what's going to be the best for absolutely everything in the situation. And only when you know what's going to be best, then you proceed. And I think that is an absolutely, it's a beautiful way of going about things. And I am very much looking forward to getting his book so I can learn about his holistic planning. Living in Manitoba, I don't have to worry about a lot of the things that even down in the States you guys have to worry about. The droughts and such are much more rampant down there than we have to deal with here. The amount of snow we get over the winter more than covers a lot of the water needs. But at the same time, I've been living here for 3 years, and in 3 years, I have watched our local lake levels drop dramatically. And I can look around and I can see how the land is being managed and what they're doing wrong, according to all the stuff that I'm learning about. But unfortunately, because I'm not a farmer, nobody takes me seriously. And I'm just, well, I'm just some guy from the city. I'm a cityite to most people out here who have been raised on the country, raised in the farmlands. They've always done cattle this way. Their dad did cattle this way. Their dad did cattle this way. And it always reminds me of a story I heard when I was a kid about a boyfriend and a girlfriend as she was cooking ham. And, you know, he noticed that she cut all the edges off the ham, threw it in the pan, fried it up. And he's like, well, why do you do that? I like the edges of the ham. That's the best part. And she's like, well, my mom always did that. So he went and he talked to her mom. And he's like, you know, so I was noticing your daughter cuts the edges off the ham before she fries it in the pan there. I was just wondering, because, you know, she said she does it because you do it. Why do you do it? And she's like, well, I do it because my mother did it. And you see where we're going with this. So boyfriend gets the chance to talk to grandma. And he's like, well, okay, so I'm trying to track this information down. Why is it that you cut the edges off the ham? And she's like, well, I had to. It didn't fit in the pan. So grandma had a perfectly good reason. That was the only way she could cook her ham. So that's why she did it that way. Her daughter, girlfriend's mom, did it that way because that's how mom did it. Girlfriend did it that way because that's how mom and grandma did it. But that doesn't mean that mom or girlfriend were doing it right. They got bigger skillets. They can fry the whole damn ham. It's fine. So to me, the lesson in that is know why you're doing things. Don't just do it because Dave did it, Bob did it, Grandpa Bob did it. It don't matter what they did. It matters why they did it. Now, I think in a lot of cases with the information that's coming forward, my grandparents, we'd have to go back to my great-grandparents, I think, to get to farm status, but they did things the way they did because there wasn't any more information. This was how it's always been done, therefore it must be how it gets done. But we're learning now as the internet is becoming more and more a necessity in people's lives, and we can walk around with our phone and we can talk to anybody anywhere on the globe just by punching a few buttons on a screen. We're able to share information so much faster than previous generations could ever even consider. So that allows us to learn from other people's mistakes and from other people's successes, which is, yeah, why I'm developing a who's who's list of global restoration. And I'm trying to absorb as much of that knowledge as I can, which takes us back to my number 3 point. I like to learn every day. So yeah, that's that. Let's see, that was number 7, chance to care for the land. Okay. Number 8, I get to try new foods and new food ideas living out in the country and trying to supply more of our own foods than I ever did in the city. In the city, it was, well, I'll just go to fast food restaurant A and pick up blank and call it done and don't even worry about it. But when I started even in Penticton getting into the process of gardening and trying to grow our own foods that way, I discovered a whole world of foods that I had absolutely never tried before, never even heard of. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, Marcy, like the mouse melons. You know, those are, they're the cutest little watermelon looking things, but they're totally cucumbers. And they've got that crunchy cucumber and they've got that explosion of cucumber silica in the middle. But they're just a little tiny thing. And they are so good for getting children involved in eating vegetables, especially kids that haven't had the opportunity to eat a lot of homegrown stuff. It's like, here, try this. And they're looking at it going, what is it? Well, it's a little tiny cucumber. Just try it. Okay. They get a taste for it. It explodes. And that's it. The next thing you know, these kids are on that mouse melon bush, looking around, trying to find all these itty bitty things. And it becomes like an Easter egg hunt or a treasure hunt. And they absolutely love it. And so, yeah, mouse melons are the perfect example of new foods that I've been able to try. Coming up this spring, once we get the rabbitry going, like I've said, I'm really excited to try a lot of rabbit-based foods that I've read about in historical books and I've seen in older movies and things like that. It seems like such an interesting meat, but growing up in the city, nobody ate rabbit. Rabbit is for poor people. Well, I'm not necessarily poor, but I'm pretty damn close. And it doesn't really matter about that social stigma for me. What matters is this is a way that I can produce meat for my family that I know is ethical meat and was raised with love. And I don't know. I kind of believe when you cook with love, it comes through in your foods. So when you garden with love and you raise your animals with love, I suspect it's going to come through there too. That could just be my upbringing, but I don't care. I'm keeping the perspective anyway. But like gardening, getting back to that, trying new foods, I discovered I can't grow lettuce, especially couldn't grow it in Penticton. It gets so hot there, everything bolts. So I'm like, okay, well, try growing spinach. That didn't work for me either. And that's how I ended up growing Swiss chard. And turns out I love this stuff. Shock's not as much of a fan of it as I am, but I absolutely love the stuff. And then from there, I'm like, okay, well, what else is kind of similar to this? And that's where I learned about kale. I'd never really eaten much kale before I started gardening. And now I can't get enough of the stuff. We've got Looking up at the cupboard, probably 4 or 5 big, like 1-gallon freezer bags of dried kale, all powdered up and good to go for sauces, soups, dips, stews, whatever. I put that stuff in all kinds of things, and I love it. I feel better for it. And what more could you really ask for, you know? So yeah, trying new foods and getting new food ideas. And since we moved out to the country, I'm learning a whole new style of cooking. It's a very Ukrainian community that we're in here, so I'm learning about borscht and things like that. And I can't wait to try my hand at homemade pierogies. Not quite ready for that yet, but I'm getting really close, because we have had a couple of amazing opportunities to eat with the community, and pierogies always seem to be a part of that amazing opportunity. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. Let's see, number 9 kind of ties back into what I was just saying there on number 8. Since I have begun this homesteading adventure, I have been able to meet some fascinating people. Like online, the homesteaders are some of the coolest, most interesting, creative people that I have seen anywhere on YouTube, and that includes the gardening community in general. I love the gardening community. So friendly, so helpful. Again, so full of love for each other, and that whole YouTube community college, community teaching the community concept, right? Like the garden community is great for that. But in the homestead community, I find a lot more DIYers and down and dirty, determined to get her done type people. And these are the qualities that I really appreciate in people. People who can think outside the box and go, okay, well, I need this. I can't afford it. I got this. Let's fake it. I love these, right to my heart. These are my kind of people. So yeah, the homesteading adventure, definitely in the top 10 of the benefits. I have met some fascinating people. And I guess the 10th thing that I've got here on my list is it's helping to teach me forward thinking. I already do a little bit of that because I'm big on math, and what I call theoretical business math. So if anybody needs me to run numbers, just let me know. I'll happily take care of that for you. But I may ask you questions you don't like. So keep that in mind if you do want me to run theoretical business math for you. But I like to take an idea and go, well, how could that be made into a successful business? What is the most that it could cost? What is the least profit that could be gotten out of that? Could a person succeed within those parameters? And right now, because of what I'm doing long term for the homestead and stuff, I find myself looking at an awful lot of Southern barbecue videos, because one thing we don't have here in Canada is any really good barbecue. We have barbecues where people cook meat. Okay, but that anybody in North Carolina knows damn well it takes a lot more to be a barbecue. Anybody down in Texas knows it takes more than that to be a barbecue. Y'all down there in the southern states, you understand what barbecue should be, and I know this from my own personal experiences traveling around as a kid and traveling around as a young adult. I have missed that type of food since we've been out here. And I am seriously toying with the idea of even maybe like a weekend barbecue pit type situation. Just across the highway, we have, they call it the Strathclair Auction Mart. And basically, it used to be an animal auction and transfer station, but it wasn't making enough money. So they've shut it down years and years before we moved here. And right now it's for sale. And while it's kind of out of my price range, I am toying with the idea of talking to the person who currently owns it and maybe arranging some sort of a, what was it called in the video I watched the other day? Contract for deed. Basically, I want to use the parking lot and the structure to make the money I need to buy the place off of him, and he will get a percentage of what I make until such point in time as the contract is fulfilled and I get the deed. You know, it sounds well and good in theory and all, but it depends on how desperate this individual is to get some cash in hand now. If they have huge debts that only selling the building, and I think it's on 4 acres of land, will satisfy, then they're clearly not going to be able to be interested in what I have to offer. But if they're just looking for a little bit of money, because right now it's it's a dead asset, really. It's just a chunk of land with nothing happening on it. Then maybe I can work something out with them. And I mean, 12, 18 hours to cook a hog. If there's anything you can find in Manitoba, it's affordable hogs. There are pigs in Kijiji every day. And I was looking just yesterday, and I can find pigs for, well, piglets anywhere from $40 to $100, depending on how big and how far I want to drive. So if I were to, let's say, for example, open a North Carolina whole hog barbecue pit type business, it's, you know, it's only open as long as there's still flesh left. And well, if you get there late, you're too late. There's no meat left. Gail, howdy, Gail. Rent to own, basically kind of what I would be talking about there. But people out here don't really like the rent to own terminology. There have been a few people that have been really screwed over by trying to trust someone, and just word travels fast, so nobody's really interested in doing that anymore. But yeah, so if I can find a way to talk them into that, then maybe there's something I can do. And then, you know, maybe there's a business that I can build on. And better yet, you know, when we move from here onto land, God willing, pass it on to Fuzzy. Fuzzy's an amazing cook, and he's an amazing networker. So, you know, giving him the house and the restaurant or the pit, barbecue pit to look after we go ensures that my boy has an income and he's got a place, roof over his head. And really, isn't that what most of us parents want, is to know that our kids are going to have cash and a roof, right? So it's an opportunity. But I mean, so many of these business ideas come and go and come and go, and I work on them until I get another random bit of theoretical business math stuck in my head, and I start working that. Like, perfect example, I have already figured out with these chickens, there is no money to be made selling their eggs because A, they're not producing enough eggs. Technically, I'm losing money every day feeding these chickens, and I don't care because I'm enjoying the chickens. We are actually even considering getting some more cluckers from a friend because, let's see if I can remember how this went down. Basically, our friend's friend had a health scare, ended up in the hospital. So they ended up looking after, I believe it was some sheep, 4 hens, and a really uppity rooster. Now, since, you know, everything has gone on, they've given the sheep back to the gentleman in question. But unfortunately, the hens and the rooster are still kicking around their property. And they raise a lot of animals, but chickens are not really something they're into. Their main livestock is Clydesdales, actually. Oh, they have some big, beautiful horses. They're so pretty. But they come out and they do the wagon rides for our Christmas extravaganza. Every couple of years, they'll come out and they'll bring some of the Clydes, and you get to hear the sleigh bells literally jingling. And our first year here, there was deep enough snow that they were actually on sleighs going through town, so that was super cool. The last couple of years have been a little lighter on the snow, so everybody's been in wagons with wheels, but it's still an incredible experience. And anyway, long and short of that is they have these extra hens. So I'm thinking about basically becoming a hen retirement home, collecting all of these unwanted ladies, if you will. There are a couple of reasons for that. One, soup chickens down the long run. You know, I don't have a problem with that. 2, body heat. I heard somewhere, actually I heard several somewheres, that every chicken is effectively a 10-watt heater. Right now, I was out there this morning. The girls are alive, but less than happy. And it got down to minus 25, 26 last night. So they were huddled up pretty well over the course of the night. And I think if I could get 4 or 5 or 10 more hens in there, and they were bunched up a little bit better, it would be easier for them to see through those really cold nights. And again, it comes back to, I want to ensure that the meat on our property and the meat that we eat is happy and healthy and raised in an ethical fashion. But I'm not going to put a heat lamp out there. I'm not taking that heat risk, and I'm not pulling that kind of power, because we're trying to be as sustainable energy consumption as possible, which is already hard enough with an 18 kilowatt furnace and bad insulation. So, you know, we pay somewhere in the vicinity of $2,500 a year for our electrical consumption in this house. And to me, that is ridiculous because the vast majority of that is furnace. Who builds a house in the prairies and doesn't put a fireplace in it? Should have thought to check for that when I was doing my online search. But ultimately, it still doesn't matter that much because even with that massive power sucking furnace, we are still using less in monthly utilities at this location than we did in Penticton because the natural gas cost us a small fortune there, even though we only used it for a few months, and electricity was through the roof compared to what it is here. So, I mean, long term, I've got a lot of ideas about electrical consumption and grid tie stuff. Shocks calls it assisted grid living, which I think is really cute because we're assisting the grid and the grid's assisting us. And I think a lot more people should really consider the idea of assisted grid living versus going completely off grid or being completely dominated by the electrical companies. It really all depends on what's available in your area, though. And one thing out here that I have to be aware of is apparently it's really, really expensive to get Manitoba Hydro to go in for the grid tie situation. So, Gail, nice but too big. Look at Welsh Mountain Ponies if you want draft horse type. I love the big horses, though. I've always been a fan of Clydesdales, and apparently I come by that naturally. As I was saying, you'd have to go to my grandparents' parents to get back to the farmland. But since we've been out here in Manitoba, I've gotten the opportunity to meet and really get to know my real father. And I found out more about my family history, obviously, than I would have without that information or without that access point. And Clydesdales very much run in my family history. We had one farmer a few generations up who started off with basically 1 square mile, ended up with 5 square miles, raising Clydesdales and the heavy draft horses. So much like the Highland cattle, there's a soft spot in my heart for these animals, and I don't know that I would necessarily be making them work for anything other than decorative rides and just kind of keeping them around as scenic livestock, because I have no interest in riding a Clydesdale. My interest in riding is thoroughbreds. I'm very standard issue that way. But the Clydes are just, they're big, beautiful, beautiful horses. And honestly, horses are so far down my farm animal list. I may never get them. I mean, I'm already in my mid-40s, right? So I've only got so much time left to start acquiring these things before I have to start teaching the next generation how to manage what I've established and how to keep it going for their kids and their kids and their kids. So I guess to get back to the actual topic of today's sort of video test, that's covered all 10 of my top 10 benefits of homesteading. We have 7 people that are currently watching right now. If you have any other benefits that you feel you're getting from homesteading that would be in your top 10, I'd love to hear about them. But otherwise, it's been 37, almost 38 minutes so far. So imagine y'all are probably getting pretty tired of looking at my scruff by now. Let's see, any other benefits for me that are off the list? You know, it's nice to be able to fly a kite in your own yard. That is awesome. Giant stress relief. Yeah, for sure, Marcy. It's so much stress removed, eh? Like, you can't even really compare it when you're living in the city or, you know, in a city. You don't even notice sometimes how much stress you're constantly under, and taking the opportunity to step away from it all and then slow your life down gives you the opportunity to look at that and go, wow, I was such a stress basket over that stuff, and now I don't have to worry about it. That's fantastic. So yeah, definitely stress relief would be on the list. Anybody else got some benefits of homesteading before we sign off here? Anyone? You know, here's another benefit of homesteading. I've got enough room that I can practice my archery without freaking out the neighbors. Yeah, that used to really drive the neighbors nuts back when we lived on that 30 by 101 foot lot there, shooting into the shed, and they would get right freaked out. Doug, satisfaction. The satisfaction of homesteading, absolutely valuable. And that's it comes from all those little things too, right? The the stress going away, and that is, it's just so much better. Learning curve. Marcy, in the city, I was almost always on the verge of tears. My husband says I'm a new person. Yeah, and I bet you'll like the person that you are now too a lot more than the person you were in the city. I mean, I know since I started my YouTube channels, I've been actively striving towards being a better person. And since we've come out here, I have redoubled my efforts, even to a point of I go by my first name now. Whereas my whole life I grew up being called by my middle name, and I wanted to start fresh. So when we came out here, I'm like, okay, Shocks, well, I know this is going to be really weird, but can you call me by my first name? Call me John, please. I'd appreciate that. And she has been such a trooper about it. But I explained to her, one of my theories with animals, and if you watch the whole thing, I'm an animal lover, is I believe in rescuing animals. That brown thing on the blue couch over there is a very loved, very rescued beast. And when we got him, he had already had a name. But to him, that name was associated with a young couple that got divorced, being bounced around between families, being abused by little dogs, and being mistreated. Because that's the life chain that led to him being at the SPCA in the first place. And so the first thing we did was we gave him a new name. His name is Lazarus, because we're bringing him back from the dead, as it were, and we're giving him a new life, a second life, a new opportunity. And that is what I wanted for me when we came out here. Is I wanted that new name. I want that new life, that new opportunity. And when people call my name, I don't want them to call a name that did all of those things in my past that I'm ashamed of and was the person that I don't want to be. I wanted it to be my name, and I want to be the person I want to be. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense to a lot of people, but I've been, personal moment, I've been through a couple of recovery programs. I've lost a lot of friends because they didn't make it. And coming out here was, in many ways, the opportunity to finally shed the last of those habits and memories and reflex actions, really, when it comes right down to it. My reflex action was to be angry. My reflex action was to be aggressive, was survival by domination. What's the old Cold War mentality, peace through superior firepower. And I am very happy to say that I think most of the people who know me now would never believe me capable of such an attitude. And that is wonderful. And I have worked very, very hard to get to that point. But that journey will never be done. Just like with Lazarus back there, the journey from where he came from will never be done until this journey is done. So yeah, it's weird, and I'm way off topic here. Hope this works. Our homestead, no traffic. I live at the end of a 4-mile dirt road with 25,000 acres of private cattle ranch on 3 sides. OMFG, you living in the sweet spot. That's nice. Completely makes sense. If I had more than one name, I'd probably have changed it when we moved. You suit, John. Well, thank you very much. And it also kind of goes well with the John Tumbling Bear. That's why JT Bear is one of my channel names. Long before we made this move, I realized I really wasn't happy with the person that I was. And I went through a numerology stage. I'm still kind of stuck in it. And I didn't like the number that my given name resolved to. So without changing the number of names, because I was Southern heritage, I'm a 3-name person, I went and I worked the numbers until I came a name that sounded like me, John Tumbling Bear. Well, my name is John. Aggressive like a bear. I'm a big teddy bear. But if you mess with my family, that changes into grizzly bear real fast. And, that aspect I don't want to lose. I will always be fiercely protective of my family and my loved ones. And my family goes well beyond blood. So You know, there are even some of you out there, and you may be surprised to know this, but I consider you to be my family. We've had developing relationships for years in our conversations, and my life would not be the same without you in it anymore. So anyway, that's a whole different thing too. But bear suited me. Tumbling, it definitely suits me because I get running on something. And again, if you follow my main channel, you know this is this is how I work. I get an idea, I try it, I discover what went wrong with it, then I research, get back on my feet, and try it again. But the point is, I fall down and get back up, and I get running again. And then I fall down, and I get back up, and I get running again. And I wanted something in my name that would remind me of that valuable part of my character that I already had. My sister, rest her soul, used to be really proud of the fact that even though we grew up the way we did, I stuck to my guns, is how she put it. She didn't necessarily always agree with my decisions, but what sibling ever does? But she was really proud of the fact that if I had good, solid reasons why I did what I did, I stuck to it. And I still maintain that. And again, that's part of the bear thing, is like, grr, because I know my ideas most of the time are on the right track. And yeah, sure, they may need refinement or whatever, but like I say, that's where the that's where the YouTube Community College comes in really, really handy. So it's just great. It's that learning every day and becoming just a better me. Hope this works. I'm also in an active long-term recovery, brother. Well, thank you very much. 2 years, 10 months. Nice. Congratulations. That is awesome. You know, I wish so much that everybody who is in a recovery program can know the joy of those 3 months, those 6 months, those 12 months, those 5 years. And granted, my drug recovery was a long time ago. It was. If I was still going to meetings, I would actually already be damn near my 20-year chip, because I got screwed up when I was really young. But that's part of the city. I did what I did to fit in. I did what I did to be the biggest dog in the yard. And at almost 300 pounds, at 18 years old and 5'10", you're a pretty big dog. You can walk down some pretty scary streets and nobody touches you. And it is what it is. Punky, it's amazing how many homesteaders seem to have been inspired to homestead by less than pleasant life experiences. Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth? You have to really see what's wrong with society before you can do anything about fixing it. And you have to, as you go through the 12 steps of recovery, you have to do some pretty serious, honest assessment of yourself, your position in life, and how that life is affecting you, and how that life is positioning you towards your success in your recovery. So I think a lot of people, quite naturally move away from a lot of the triggers that caused them to use whatever in the first place. Road rage used to be a huge trigger for me. And growing up in Vancouver, I used to spend 45 minutes driving to get from North Surrey to Vancouver to work. And, out here, I can spend 45 minutes driving and I can go 75 to 100 kilometers, depending on whether or not the boys in blue are around. But maybe I was traveling 40 to get to my job in Vancouver, and it was bumper to bumper all the way. And it fed the aggression so much. It was one of the things that I absolutely had to leave before I could really settle into a mental position of I don't need those habits anymore. And Shocks has been so good about understanding where I came from, judging or belittling me for it. So I find in her, she's an absolute treasure. And I think without her, I probably would have failed on my recovery long ago, because she was with me when my mom passed. And that was really close. I almost screwed up really big then. But with the support of good people, and this is what you find in the recovery programs, you find the support of good people, and it just becomes a lot easier to get through. So I'm getting all emotional and shit now, which is so completely not what my plan was for the day. I think I'm going to go outside and shoot some stuff for a while after this here video. But that's just another one of the benefits of homesteading. I can go outside and shoot stuff if I'm getting emotional and nobody cares. You can't do that in the city. And actually, that's part of why archery is one of my favorite shooting sports. Especially in the wintertime, it's so peaceful and calm and downright tranquil outside. The last thing you want to hear is click, click, bang, click, click, bang. But out with the bow and arrow, it's just kind of a gentle, natural thump. And especially with the bunny thumpers on there, and I've got that dog food bag target. It's all good. It's very, very peaceful, very relaxing. So I'm going to say thank you guys for joining me today on this kind of weird roller coaster of a video. And yeah, thank you guys for, I don't know if you had the notification bell up or what, but I really didn't expect anybody to join me on this particular live stream. So I kind of thought it would be just a quick, here are my top 10, nobody in the chat, and click. But this has been great. I've really appreciated the opportunity to share with you. I'm going to say some of my more loyal viewers because, well, there's certainly not everybody on JT Bear that's come over to the Bear Family Farms. And a lot of the names that I'm seeing, like there are a couple of new names in this, like hope this works. Well, like I'm really glad to see new names in the chat, but like Learning Curve and Punky, you ladies have been around so long. You've seen me go through so much. I suppose you probably could have guessed a lot of this already. But it's really, really nice. Babette, hi. It's just really, really nice to take the opportunity to share with, yeah, our YouTube family, you know. Yeah, you guys are really awesome, and I just really appreciate having you in my court, as it were. But I'm going to wrap it up now before my face starts leaking, and I'm going to go find myself a warm beverage. So take care, everybody. I hope you have absolutely wonderful day ahead of you. And I will talk to you next time. Apparently, people are interested.